Now, I was reading a financial story yesterday, and just some of the wording didn't make sense. And I looked at the author of the article, and the name looked like an Indian name. And that got me thinking to a documentary I watched a few years ago. In fact, it may have been more than a decade ago. And it was about outsourcing. And we know that many jobs in the U.S. have been outsourced. And once a lot of those jobs were outsourced, then transformation started to take place of what could be outsourced next. And a lot of the things that are being outsourced now are information, and many stories that we're reading, whether it's financial, whether it's political, they're written and authored by someone who's overseas, who's never been to America. And sometimes you can pick up on that by certain words that are used, but in many cases, many people, they don't even pay attention. But in my opinion, this is pretty dangerous because you can have a lot of misinformation. And it just goes to show you the length that these corporations will go to protect their bottom line, to bring in the most profit that they can. And in many cases, there's a lot of propaganda going about. And it made me think about a documentary I watched a few years ago, and it was about Al Jazeera. And in the very early 2000s, Al Jazeera was the top news source in the Middle East. And the U.S. government, they wanted to find a way to find an alternate news network that could pretty much battle Al Jazeera. So they created Al Hurra, and I might be pronouncing that name wrong, but regardless, this was a Middle East, now it's still around. This is a Middle Eastern news network that's based right here in the United States, and it's based in Virginia. Now, they broadcast most of their news from here. Now, many of the people in the Middle East, they believe they're there. They believe that the network, the newscast, is there in the Middle East, but in fact, it's right here in Virginia, and it's pretty much an arm of the CIA, and we have a lot of that now in these news networks. I also watched a documentary called Propaganda, where many of these local news networks, they're owned by the police. And the police, they have big sway on what is shown to the public. They're going to make sure the first segment of the news is about crime. Why? Well, they need jobs. The police, they always need money. And so much of the information that we're receiving is propaganda. It's paid for. It's there to change your way of thinking, to persuade your way of thinking. And that's most likely only going to ratchet up as we go into the future. Now, along with everything being outsourced, with much of the information we're getting not being really true, there was a story about Kobe Bryant, the basketball player Kobe Bryant. His statue was unveiled in Los Angeles, and it had quite a few misspellings on the statue. And I had to go look up and see who actually made this statue. And to my surprise, it was actually Americans. But some years back, the MLK statue was actually outsourced and built in China. And if you closely look at that statue, you can see small Asian attributes in that statue. But it just goes to show, not only are we outsourcing jobs, actual physical jobs, we're outsourcing information, we're outsourcing art, we're outsourcing creativity. And right now, basically, America is just a shell, a service economy shell. And that's likely going to get worse. Now, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.